If you are experiencing pain on your period and you are open to embarking on this journey, because yes, it is a journey of finding your specific formula, what it takes for you to have pain-free periods, you will see that this will change your entire life. Welcome back to another one of these videos. Today we're talking about one of my favorite topics, and that is pain-free periods. First of all, I really hope you don't hear that yapping dog in the alleyway right next to me, because this is the reason why I don't like small dogs, okay? Dog needs to be like at least this size or bigger. Hopefully you could have seen that. All right, the reason why I decided to make this video today is actually because I am on my period and I've been going through it. It has not been a pain-free period. So you're like, okay, where are the credentials? Why are you making this video? I have found my personal formula that allows me to have pain-free periods for the past, I don't even know how many months. And the reason why I decided to make this video is because this past month, I did not follow my formula. I did not follow all the things that I usually do to make sure that this time of the month goes easily and breezily and just flows without me even having to think about anything. So I'm struggling. I feel you out there. If you are struggling with your periods, or you have any sort of endometriosis or any sort of other concern around your period, I have narrowed down 4 main categories in which I believe deeply impact whether your period will be pain-free or painful. So let's get right into it. So these past 2 weeks, I've had family visiting, and I've just been really out of my normal routine. Obviously doing a lot more, indulging a lot more, all the things that you do when you have people that you love visiting. That's the context, and I will get into why that has added up to a painful period this month. The first piece of advice I would have if you are suffering from painful periods would be to stop ignoring your cycle. I know it sounds harsh, but let me break it down. The biggest thing that helped me take charge of my own body and be responsible for whether I had pain or no pain during my period was by understanding that I have a cycle, that my body goes through phases, and to take the efforts needed to educate myself on those phases, further than just knowing the names. At least in my public school growing up, there was no education about a woman's cycle or kind of the hormonal changes that she goes through, what to expect or what to not expect, none of that. We were really just told, don't have sex, you'll have a child, and let's talk about STDs, and that's about it. So if you are a woman that just kind of goes through life and doesn't really take any time or presence to understand your cycle, to understand the changes that you go through in 1 month, it's okay. Don't be harsh on yourself. It's normal. No one showed you the way. That's why I'm here to show you the way. So I'm not gonna go deep into all of the hormonal changes of every single month, but I implore you to look at all the wonderful resources online. In my last video, I was talking about a book called Women Code. That is a great book to start to really get the science-y background of everything. Again, I'm not a nutritionist or a doctor of any sort. I just am interested in these things. So take initiative to learn about your cycle and to learn which phases you're gonna have more energy, less energy, to be able to plan for the month ahead. And another thing that goes with knowing your cycle, and when it comes to the time of your period, if you are someone that experiences pain, you must know that pain is a message. It is not a means to an end. So if you are someone that has a painful period and you've been to a doctor or you've been to a health professional and they said, look, that's just how it is, that's just how it's going to be for you, please know that it doesn't have to be that way. There are things that you can do to reduce the pain or completely rid yourself of the pain. What I've found after I started to dig into all of these different topics, when I experienced pain on my period, it meant that something that I was doing, consuming, or taking part in that month prior was not aligned with my truest self. That will make more sense as I continue to explain the other topics, but keep that in mind. If you are experiencing pain, it might mean that something is not aligned and that you just need to tweak or change to really see an improvement in your symptoms. The second category that severely improved my pain was getting rid of all of the toxic product that you use on the everyday. Now, I'm talking hair care, skincare, cleaning products, laundry products, anything that you use on a daily basis that contains really harsh toxic ingredients. You want to throw them in the trash, get rid of them, and replace it with a more natural substitute. Why does this matter? Because your period is the time of the month where you are literally detoxing. You are shedding your uterine lining. You are also letting go of all of the mental, the physical, all the unwanted that has accumulated over the month so that you can start new. Your period is genuinely such a sacred and special time, and it is a gift that we as women have to start new every single month. So if you are using a bunch of really toxic chemical-filled products as you wash yourself, as you wash your dishes, or as you wash your clothes and your sheets, things that you sleep on every single day, that is going to be absorbed into your skin, and it's going to be another thing that your body has to detox during your period. That's going to make you feel more tired and essentially give your body even more work to do this detoxing process than it already is, because your period is an extremely energy-rich time. Energy rich in the sense that it's taking lots of energy from your body to complete the process. So help your body out, switch out all those products, and you might even see an immediate difference. It doesn't even have to be expensive. You can find super cheap cleaning and face products, things like white cleaning vinegar, baking soda, things for your face like coconut oil. And before you hop on me and say that oil, you can't clean your face with oil because it's going to clog your pores and stuff, that is indicative of a deeper issue within your body, which I implore you to, again, research online. The only advice that I can give you is that as you go through this process of really taking note of what you do in these 4 categories and how that might contribute to pain on your period, you might see that as you take away all of the excess and you really give your body the space to breathe and just be by using very simple products, natural products that come directly from the earth, not only will you see an improvement in your period symptoms, but you might also see an improvement in your skin and the way it reacts to oily products. That's a whole nother conversation, but just a little tip. The next category worth investigating to reduce pain on your period is movement. Now, as with all of these categories, except for the getting rid of toxic products, there is going to be a personalized formula that is just for you, that will be different than anyone else. And that is super important, that your approach is going to be specific to your body, because we are all unique and there is not one formula. I can't give you my exact formula. I can give you a generalized framework that you can mend and tune to your own body. With movement, we need to be moving all throughout the month to help with the flow of our blood at the end of the month. If you have a job where you're sitting all day and you don't normally work out, or you don't really include walking or any sort of like gentle movement into your routine, you might experience pain, and you might even see when you have your period that there are real like huge chunks of your uterine lining that kind of come out with the pain, or the flow of your blood is not very heavy, or it comes at like different spurts of time rather than a consistent flow. That means that your blood is not flowing, and that could be due to many factors. Again, I'm not a doctor, I can't diagnose exactly what it is, but I am gonna say that movement is like lubrication. It gets things going, it gets things moving. It's like taking out the leaves out of a river that's blocking the flow of water. So you have to move. And again, once you start to familiarize yourself with your cycle, your follicular, your ovulatory, your luteal, and your menstruation phases, you will understand at which phase is the best to do a certain type of movement. I highly suggest, and you'll see this if you decide to read the book suggestion Women Code that I gave in my last video, that lots of walking and more sort of gentle movement during the luteal phase, or during your luteal phase, will really, really help with the flow of everything when it comes time to menstruation. Now, here's the other side of that coin. If you are someone who moves all the time, who has a super active job, or who's an athlete, who genuinely enjoys, doing all the Pilates, all the strength training, all the running, all that stuff. If you characterize yourself as someone who is already depleted, for example, you're a mama who's got her period back, you've got other sorts of children, you've got other children, you maybe are going through a super stressful period in life, you got a stressful job, or you just feel like you are overwhelmed. And you feel like you have no more gas in your tank. And that could be your emotional or your physical tank. Then you need to adapt your movement practice. You need to adapt it to the level of energy you are feeling at that day. Now, and I am speaking from experience because I love to move. It is what keeps me happy. It is what keeps me grateful and appreciative of my life, of everything I'm able to do. And I've overdone it in the past. And you can see that in my past series, The Unbecoming Journey. I have a whole 3 videos on that. Now, if you're someone who loves to run or do whatever, ski, sprint, whatever your joy is, if you arrive at a point in your workout plan where it's like day 2 or 3 of the week and you have a long run, or you had a long run and now you've just got a shorter run, or whatever it may be, and you just feel like you have nothing more to give, don't do it. And again, I understand that it is really hard to find what this formula is going to be for you if you are a professional athlete, or if you are someone whose job is very physical, because it's not like you can just say, oh, I'm not going into work today, or oh, I'm not going to do this phase of my training because I'm in my luteal and then I'm going to be on my period, so I'm just not going to train then either. It doesn't work like that. I get it. So because everyone's situation is different, you need to find how this formula will work for you in your unique situation. I used to work on a farm, extremely physical work. So I'm always trying to do the best that I can. So as I started to investigate why I had pain on my periods in the past, I realized that as I was working on the farm, I was burning myself out. I would work on the farm, I would come home and I would work out, and then I loved the feeling of being so burnt at the end of the night that I had no choice but to sleep deeply. What I ended up doing for my own personal formula is, obviously I stopped working out after my job so I could genuinely just rest. And then that was even not enough of rest for me during my luteal and my menstruation phase. So I just showed up to work, and with the girls that I felt comfortable who were also working on the farm, I would share that I was on my period. And also I would share with some of the men, and I would just choose the tasks that were less energy taking. Instead of hauling 12 big bags of soil out into the field and doing back and forth and ripping them open and spreading the soil everywhere, I would choose something like planting the seeds, which is really something that just requires you to be stood in the same position for a while. This brings up a really important ideal or philosophy that is important to adapt as you start to investigate why you have pain on your periods, is how you think about your period. What are the thoughts and the ideals that you hold about your period? Do you think that it is dirty? Do you think that it is an inconvenience? Do you think that you are unlucky? Do you think whatever, all of this negativity? If you are harboring a lot of negativity about your period is probably not going to be a very beautiful experience. And again, it's super understandable because that's how we are taught to think about our periods, at least in public school and such. My biggest shift with my experience on my period was when I learned from someone else their beautiful view about a period and all the benefits that your period gives to you, all this ancient wisdom that has been lost over the years, which completely transformed how I view this time of month and my experience on my period, and which gives me now pain-free periods consistently. If you have a very negative outlook on your period, I invite you to take this refreshing perspective about your period, that your period can actually be that your period is such a sacred time of the month. It's a time of renewal. It's a time of shedding all that no longer serves you so you can continue to become the best and the highest version of yourself. It's a time where you're deeply, deeply, deeply connected with your intuition and your true authentic self. That's why sometimes we think we're like a bitch on our period, but really it's a part of you that you maybe suppress in all other parts of your cycle because you're used to being the nice girl or a people pleaser or whatever it may be. And so that's the time of the month where your walls kind of come down and you're actually like true to yourself for a moment, and it's necessary. And so this time of the month can be an extremely informative time for us to really learn about who we are genuinely and authentically, and how we can live more in alignment with who we are. It's also a time where you're deeply connected to this world here, the physical world, and the energetic and the spiritual world. So if you are someone who does dabble in spirituality and likes to connect with angels or spirits or whatever it may be, it's a beautiful time to do that, and it's a beautiful time to rest so that your body has the time and the space to go through this incredible process. Once you learn about your cycle, the different phases, and you become more comfortable with what that means and how that applies into your life, I invite you also to shed the stigma that your period is dirty and it's something to be hidden. I know that I was a dancer when I was young. I wore a leotard and tights, and so I was forced to hide my period as much as I could by wearing tampons and basically pretending that I didn't have my period by sucking my lower belly in and forcing an amount of energy to dance, to perform, to practice when it truly wasn't there. And that was very inauthentic, and it caused me severe pains on my period, which I was hoping would allow me to take a sick day off practice. But as anyone else knows who has done a sport, sometimes it's not as easy as that. You need to work through the pain, which has led me to this beautiful journey where I discovered how being inauthentic, hiding your period or thinking of it negatively or trying to be a way that you aren't authentically can all lead to very painful periods and even deeper issues like endometriosis or cysts or infertility. I think that perfectly segues into my last category, which would be your emotions. So hear me out on this one, and I hope that you're able to wrap your head around this concept. So as I explained earlier, your period is the time of the month where you are shedding all of your past experiences from the month prior, all of your past things that have been consumed, whether it be through your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth, everything, which is why it's important to clean up the products that you use, make sure you're moving to help eliminate as much as you can. And it is very important that you become aware of your emotions, the emotions that you most frequently feel over a month span of time, in between your last period and your upcoming period. My own experience. So take this with a grain of salt and apply it into your own life to see if it resonates for you. But in my world, in my own experience, I have found that I have the most painful periods when I am not fully expressing my emotions and I am not fully moving through my emotions in a month's time. Let's go back to the example that I introduced in the beginning of this video, how my family has been visiting these past 2 weeks and I have been out of routine, which is why I believe that I am experiencing a very painful period this month. One of the biggest reasons why I believe I'm having cramping and a general very sore and distended tummy is because I would suppress lots of feelings as my family was visiting. And this is common for most people in their families. Of course, it's your family. We love them from the bottom of our hearts. But there are just some things that you might not get along on, or you might not communicate in the same way, or there's some things you just can't tell certain people in your family as you can others, because it just is that way. There's nothing wrong about it. It just is something to inform yourself so you know how to take the best care of your body during the phase of your cycle. So I did not do a good job about this month, and this is the repercussion of that. So what that looks like for you, if you were someone that experiences, let's say, lots of stress, lots of fear, lots of anger, lots of resentment, or you don't know how to healthily express these emotions, it can come out during your time of the month as pain, as clotting, as you not being able to get up off the couch. This is so important because sometimes we can be harboring onto these emotions and we might not even know it or realize it. We might not even be conscious of it. What made me most conscious of the fact that my emotions during the month have an impact on my period is the first time I ever lived alone. As for many people, living alone is an extremely informative time, and it's some of the best years for some people, it's some of the worst years for some people. But for me, it was extremely informative about how my emotions impacted my cycle, my skin, my choices, and how I show up in the world. And especially how certain people impact my emotions. And that's where I had to judge how well I did on regulating myself and making sure I was doing what I needed to clear those emotions through my body so I didn't experience a painful period at the end of the month. And let me tell you, this takes time. It's trial and error. The only way you learn is by going through it and making mistakes and just taking that feedback in and basically reparenting yourself and be like, oh, that makes me feel really bad. That makes me feel really good. Let's switch this out at this time of the month and this. I'm not saying that you need to move out of wherever you are and live alone, because I know that that is not feasible for a lot of people. What I am saying is I would like you to take a little bit more presence or consciousness on your emotions and understand what you're feeling throughout the month and how that impacts your cycle. If you're like, okay, where do I even start about understanding like what I'm feeling? My biggest tools for that would be meditation and journaling. Everyone says it, but it's because it works. If you journal, just write down whatever's going on in your head every single day of the month. Just a quick little jot down of how you're feeling, what went on that day. If you experienced any sort of intense emotion, whether it be a positive emotion or a negative emotion, I want you to write it down, explain what happened. And then at the end of the month, when it comes time to your period, I want you to look back on all the emotions that you felt and then see if that caused pain or if that caused ease with your period. Meditation is also a great tool because it allows you to quiet the thoughts in your mind so you can really just observe what's going on in your body. So as you can tell, if you are experiencing pain on your period and you are open to embarking on this journey, because yes, it is a journey of finding your specific formula, what it takes for you to have pain-free periods, you will see that this will change your entire life. If you have the patience and the love and the capacity to stick through with this journey to really arrive at the finish line, which is a pain-free period without medication, you will learn that your environment, your relationships, the food you eat, the products you use, the light that you take in, your screen time, everything, all of this impacts your period and it impacts your life. How we live each day is how we live our entire life. I really hope that this video was informative and maybe helped you take one step in the right direction to finding relief. And if you're struggling right now, I feel you, I see you, I know what it's like to deal with pain on your period and to feel lost and to feel like no one is listening to you and no one can understand. But I'm here to tell you that there is a way to have pain-free periods. We weren't meant to experience this much pain at this time of the month, and it can be really genuinely a beautiful moment of the month if you take the time and the presence to learn what your body needs. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.